Our top story, Justice Anthony Kennedy retiring tonight, which gives Trump another Supreme Court justice nomination.
The selection of a justice of the United States Supreme Court is considered, I think we can all say, one of the most important events, one of the most important things for our country. They can swing different ways depending on whom there might be in the court. So it's always been considered a tremendously important thing.
Tremendously important. Democrats agree with that, and they say they may chuck the rule book and start really fighting.
Are you guys ready to maybe rip up some of the rules that have, as Rachel said, limited Democrats?
Yes, Nicole, and I know we're ready because I've seen these candidates.
People from all across America should realize that their rights and opportunities are threatened.
We've been playing by the rule book. We need to play by street rules.
Street rules, that's what McConnell did in 2016, ripping away and hijacking Obama's Supreme Court pick, which then paved the way for an upset election and Neil Gorsuch to wind up on the court. Many people saying tonight, yes, elections have consequences. And all this news comes amidst another development. There were these elections last night and a huge primary upset. A self-described socialist in the Democratic Party beating the number 4 Democrat in the House with a very radical, get tough, progressive message.
She's right here. I can't let you know. She's looking at herself on television right now. How are you feeling? Can you put it into words?
Nope. I cannot put this into words.
All right,
I'm joined by former DNC chair Donna Brazile. Let's start with your reaction there. Should Joe Crowley have lost? And what does it mean that there's a changing of the guard?
Well, first of all, Joe Crowley is a great Democrat, but this was a race in which the voters in that district, New York 14th, they wanted change. She was a progressive voice throughout the campaign, talking about issues that matter at the local level. He was the elder statesperson, and I'm not talking about age, I'm talking about experience, talking about his record. She was talking about what she plans to do. He was talking about what he has done. This was a young, really aggressive campaigner. I watched her on one of the debates where she really talked about these issues. She spelled out Medicare for all. She spelled out her policy positions on jobs, on tuition, making college more affordable. She was an unabashed progressive. And I tell you something, it is a wake-up call, and I hope Democratic incumbents are paying attention. Yeah, and this is, you mentioned, because you know Joe Crowley, you've worked with him. He's been on this show. Viewers may remember him, and he's done a lot of different things, but this is a clear sign coming from the bottom up that people want a different reaction. And that is a big context for something nobody knew was coming today. My colleague Chris Matthews laying out the politics on that if Democrats don't do everything in their power to fight, it will be a political implosion on their side even before these pivotal midterms. Take a listen.
They will find a way to do it. Okay. There are ways to slow down votes. They will find that way, or they will fail. And if they fail, they will lose their leadership. The party will not accept failure on this front. If you lay down like the experts are saying, and lay down and accept this as history that can't be stopped, you're going to see a political party in serious implosion.
Is that right, Donna?
Look, this is a very important Supreme Court position, and I can tell you, I've heard from the base of the party today, they want the Democratic Party, the Democratic senators to apply the same McConnell rule to this nominee. Now, remember, Mr. Trump has the right to nominate. The Senate is advising consent. Mr. McConnell said the American people should have the right to have input into the selection. I believe that we deserve input. As you recall, Ari, that in 2016, Mr. Merrick Garland was selected. He was nominated by the president on March 16th.
We have that. Let's look at that and get your response. Here it is.
It has been 80 years since a Supreme Court vacancy was nominated and confirmed in an election year. There is a long tradition that you don't do this in an election year.
Will Justice Garland, Judge Garland, get a hearing?
No, I don't think so. This nominee is not going to be considered. Let's let the American people decide.
What do Democrats do with that rather damning, hypocritical Oppo video?
Well, we continue to tell the American people this is the McConnell rule. It applied in 2016. It should apply in 2018. And we have to use every constitutional mean that we have within the Senate framework. And, you know, their rules are a little arcane. We have to use every constitutional framework to make that point day in and day out. Look, what the Supreme Court did today in the public sector union case, what they've done this past week with regards to not just gerrymandering, but a woman's right to choose. This is a very important position, and while very important, seeing while we respect the fact that the president who's under investigation, by the way, we respect the fact that he can nominate. The Senate advise and consent. Right. And I think the Senate Democrats must be on the case. We should apply the McConnell rule, and the McConnell rule is simple. Let the American people go to the polls in 131 days, only 4 months. And that should give, you know, the Senate enough time for them to wait until we get a chance to get our voices in the process. Well,
it's a big political fight. And, Donna, you know, Mitch McConnell's music, you don't usually sing from his songbook. So something must be going on.
The American people should have a voice in the selection of the next Supreme Court justice. I'm going to keep tweeting this every day. I'm going to remind them of why they stood up and opposed President Obama's nominee. They said, we don't do this in an election year. Well, this is an election year. And by the way, 3/4 of the nation's governors will be elected this fall. This is a very important election. 36 senators, all 435 members of Congress. Let the American people have a voice in this process.
Well, you put it starkly. It is summer, but it is not a summer off. It seems this is going to focus the minds of a lot of people going into a very consequential election. Donna Brazile, as always, we appreciate your political insights. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.